Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, desolators, peasants, vassals. I'm a useful idiot, and today I want to talk about the fact that U.S. troops are going to Jordan. Well, I should say more U.S. troops, because as my regulars know, I did a report about the United States training a new secular army in Jordan. And I guess that involves only a handful of U.S. soldiers, but now it's been confirmed that 200 combat troops are going to Jordan, and they'll be in a Jordanian installation. And the full story is that they will be going there in May, and at first the story seemed negligible, but then I noticed that different news sources reported the story in a different way. And the expanded version points out a very important fact, and that is that this is the vanguard of a potential U.S. force of 20,000 plus. So obviously that makes it a much bigger story and confirms my beliefs that the U.S. would intervene in weeks or months. Another video I did about 4 weeks ago. And the excuse given now is not so much intervention, although that is also brought up, but they talk about securing chemical weapons and containing war spillage. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. But troops from the 1st U.S. Armored Division will establish a headquarters near the border and, quote, will help deliver humanitarian supplies and plan for possible military operations, unquote. That sounds more like it. Plan for possible military operations. They're basically going to set up and coordinate this installation, this Jordanian military installation on the border with Syria, and convert it to a staging area for U.S. troops. And goes on to say that including a rapid buildup of forces if intervention is necessary. And this is quoted from U.S. officials. As a matter of fact, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, in a hearing just yesterday, declared this and said that both he and Obama are wary of another intervention, I'm sure. And I hope that them just saying that doesn't make it okay to consider this intervention, but it seems to be already baked in the cake. And the U.S. is stepping up the U.S. is stepping up this operation because all the political options are gone, and there seems to be no end in sight to this war. And I assumed there would be some reactions and some buildup and some stepping up, because it appears right now that Assad's forces have the rebels on the run in most areas, except for a couple of different provinces. And that is not the outcome that the United States wants. And as I've said over and over again, every video about Syria, the U.S. will make sure, one way or another, that the Assad regime is removed. There's just no other option, and there's no other outcome. And Hagel went on to say, quote, military intervention is always an option. Interesting point in itself. But it should be an option of last resort, unquote, of course. But that he worried that a major deployment could, quote, embroil the U.S. in a significant, lengthy, and uncertain military commitment, unquote. And that would be an understatement. In fact, speaking of understatements, the article also mentioned that U.S. officials worry that sending American troops into Syria could inflame the civil war rather than end it. And that would be my guess. So good job, all those experts working for our government that have to figure these things out. And another part of this quotient, too, where the U.S. needs to get U.S. troops there and maybe commandeer this civil war, is the fact that Nusrah Front, a group labeled as a terrorist organization, recently declared allegiance to Al-Qaeda. And they're the most formidable rebel group in Syria, numbering about 5,000. And that very declaration has made things very complicated. Of course, everybody, all the observers paying attention already knew that the rebel movement was crowded with terrorists, and Assad himself has said that. But now it's confirmed. It makes things a lot more complex for public relations. And another interesting thing about this, of course, is that Jordan has always been a close U.S. ally, but they've had to kind of keep it under wraps and play to their home team. And open cooperation with the U.S. could fan unrest within Jordan, as well as make Jordan a target of war violence or destabilization by extremists. So this is a big step for Jordan taking, a lot of risk involved. So that also bespeaks of how important this is. And apparently Jordan has already cleared the possibility for any future buildup of U.S. forces. So they're all for it. And we could find out a lot more next week because Chuck Hagel, our defense secretary, is visiting Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and United Arab Emirates. And no doubt he will be laying the groundwork for U.S. intervention. That's my guess. So there you have it. First U.S. combat troops heading to Jordan, a potential vanguard for a force of 20,000 plus. And I would not be surprised if that is the game plan. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.